In a world where laughter feels like a sharp knife, Thalion struggles to fit in at school. His classmates, led by Elysia, mock him relentlessly, leaving him feeling alone and defeated. As he walks home, he carries the heavy burden of being seen as the loser. Seeking escape, he finds comfort in the nearby forest. There, he discovers a glowing stone that seems to call to him, sparking a flicker of hope and curiosity deep within his heart. Little does he know, this moment will change everything. Thalion sat in the back of the classroom, his heart sinking as the laughter of his classmates filled the air. It was a symphony of mockery, and at the center of it all was Elysia, her voice ringing out like a bell, bright and cruel. Look at Thalion. The loser can't even answer a simple question. Her friends joined in, their giggles sharp and piercing. As he kept his head down, Thalion felt the weight of their words pressing on him. Each laugh felt like a stone added to his burden. Why did they have to pick on him? What had he done to deserve this? He wanted to disappear, to become invisible, to escape the bright, harsh light of their ridicule. The school day dragged on, each minute feeling like an hour. When the final bell rang, he hurried out of the building, relief flooding over him as he stepped into the cool air outside. Walking home, he replayed the hurtful words in his mind. Loser. Weirdo. Freak. The labels stuck to him like glue, and he couldn't shake them off. The world felt heavy, and despair wrapped around him like a thick fog. As he turned onto the path that led to his home, he decided to take a detour into the nearby forest. Maybe the trees would offer some comfort, a momentary escape from the taunts of Elysia and her gang. The forest was a sanctuary, a place where he could breathe without the weight of judgment pressing on his shoulders. He could imagine the rustle of leaves soothing him, the chirps of birds lifting his spirits. The deeper he walked into the woods, the more he felt the tension in his chest ease. It was quiet here. The only sounds were the crunch of leaves beneath his feet and the distant call of a woodpecker. But then, as he ventured further, something caught his eye, a shimmer in the underbrush. Curiosity sparked within him, and he moved closer, brushing aside the branches. There it was, a glowing stone, pulsating with a soft light. It looked almost alive, as if it were beckoning him. What is this? Thalion whispered to himself, kneeling to examine it. His fingers hovered above the surface, and for a moment he hesitated. What if it was just a trick, another cruel joke played by the universe? But the stone radiated warmth, and a sense of hope flickered in his chest. Maybe it can help me, he murmured, the words barely escaping his lips. In a moment of impulsive courage, he reached out and touched the stone. In an instant, a blinding flash of light engulfed him. Thalion gasped, feeling a rush of energy surge through his body. The world around him faded, and he felt himself being pulled into another realm. When the light dimmed, he found himself face to face with a magnificent creature, a dragon, its scales shimmering like the stone itself. "Who dares to summon me?" the dragon's voice boomed, echoing through the trees. Thalion stumbled back, wide-eyed. He had read about dragons and stories, but he never thought he would see one, let alone summon it. I didn't mean to," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "I just found this stone, and—" The dragon tilted its head, studying him with piercing eyes. "You are not just any boy. You possess a spark within you, something that calls to magic." Thalion's heart raced. Could he truly have something special? "What do you mean?" he asked, a mix of fear and excitement coursing through him. "You have the power to change your fate," the dragon said, "but power comes with a price. Are you ready to embrace it?" Thalion's mind whirled with possibilities. The teasing, the hurt, the loneliness. Could he finally find a way to rise above it all? As he looked into the dragon's eyes, he felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was the moment he had been waiting for. the chance to break free from the chains of mockery that had bound him for so long. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Thalion stood before the shimmering stone he had discovered in the heart of the forest. Its glow was mesmerizing, casting a gentle light around him. Driven by an impulse he could not explain, he reached out and touched the smooth surface of the stone. In that instant, a blinding flash of light enveloped him, forcing him to shield his eyes. When the brightness faded, he found himself standing before a majestic dragon, its scales glinting like emeralds in the fading light. The creature's enormous wings spread wide, blocking out the last rays of the sun. Thalion's heart raced as he took in the sight before him. "Who dares disturb my slumber?" The dragon's voice boomed, deep and resonant, echoing through the trees. I didn't mean to," Thalion stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "I just found this stone." The dragon's piercing yellow eyes narrowed as it studied Thalion. "You touched the artifact, boy. That makes you my master." Thalion blinked in disbelief. "Master? But I'm just Thalion. I'm nobody." The dragon let out a rumbling laugh that shook the branches above. "You are more than you think. This bond we share is powerful. You have summoned me, and with that comes responsibility." Thalion felt a mix of awe and fear. "Responsibility? What do you mean?" Kaleth, as the dragon revealed his name, folded his wings and settled down on the ground, his immense size still towering over Thalion. "You must learn to harness the power you have awakened. It lies within you, waiting to be unleashed." "But I don't know how," Thalion admitted, feeling the weight of doubt pressing down on him. "I've always been seen as the loser. How can I become something more?" Kaleth's expression softened. "Every great journey begins with a single step. You have the potential to rise above your fears. Embrace it." Thalion hesitated, uncertainty clouding his thoughts. "What if I fail? What if I'm not strong enough?" "Strength comes in many forms," Kaleth replied, his voice steady and reassuring. "It is not always about physical might. Sometimes it is about courage, heart, and the choices you make. You must confront your insecurities head-on." Taking a deep breath, Thalion nodded, his resolve slowly building. "Okay, I'll try." "Good," Kaleth said, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "Let us begin. Close your eyes and feel the magic around you. It is a part of you now." Thalion closed his eyes, focusing on the sounds of the forest, the rustling leaves, the distant chirp of crickets, and the gentle whisper of the wind. He took a moment to quiet his mind, letting the worries of his past fade away. "Now, imagine the power flowing through you, like a river," Kaleth instructed. "Let it guide you." As Thalion concentrated, he felt a warmth spreading through him, a flicker of energy that ignited a sense of hope. It was a feeling he had longed for, something that seemed elusive in his everyday life. "I can feel it," he whispered, surprised by the realization. "Excellent," Kaleth said, his voice filled with pride. "Remember this feeling. It is your strength, and it will guide you in your darkest moments." Thalion opened his eyes, a newfound determination shining within them. "What do I do next?" "Next we will train," Kaleth replied, rising to his full height once more. "But first, you must understand that with great power comes great responsibility. The world will challenge you, and you must be ready to face it." As they began their training, Thalion felt a bond forming between them, a connection that went beyond master and dragon. It was as if he had found a part of himself he never knew existed. Together, they would navigate the complexities of this newfound power, and Thalion knew that he was no longer just a boy labeled as the loser. He was beginning to awaken to a destiny far greater than he had ever imagined. Thalion stood in the quiet of the forest, the air thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. The glow of the stone still lingered in his mind, but now it was replaced by a deeper feeling, a mix of fear and exhilaration. After awakening Kaleth, everything in his life felt different. He had power now, but with it came a heavy choice. Why do you hesitate, Thalion? Kaleth's voice rumbled like distant thunder, stirring the leaves around them. The dragon's golden eyes sparkled with a fierce light as he towered beside the boy. You could show them who you are. You could make them pay for what they did. Thalion looked down, the weight of Kaleth's words pressing on his chest. He felt the anger bubbling up inside him, the urge to lash out at Elysia and her friends. They had made his life a nightmare, laughing and teasing him day after day. The thought of revenge was tempting, like a sweet fruit just within reach. But what if I become like them? Thalion whispered, his voice trembling. What if I hurt someone? Kaleth stepped closer, his scales shimmering in the dappled sunlight. You have the strength to choose differently. True power lies not in revenge, but in understanding. You can rise above your pain. Thalion clenched his fists, battling the storm of emotions swirling within him. I want them to feel what I felt. I want them to know how much they hurt me. That might be true, Kaleth said, his tone steady and calm. But anger will only lead to more pain. You have a chance to transform that hurt into something powerful. You can show them your true self. It is your choice, Thalion. The boy closed his eyes, picturing Elysia's mocking face, the laughter of her friends echoing in his ears. But then he thought of the soft glow of the stone, the warmth of Kaleth's presence. He opened his eyes, feeling a flicker of hope. What if I stand up to them instead? What if I show them that I am not weak? Kaleth's eyes gleamed with approval. That is the spirit, Thalion. But remember, standing up for yourself also means standing up for others. Use your strength to lift those around you, not to tear them down. As Thalion listened, the shadows of doubt began to lift. The forest around him felt alive, the whispers of the wind carrying a message of encouragement. He took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill his lungs. I want to be strong, Kaleth. Not just for me, but for everyone who feels like I do. Then let us train, Kaleth said, his voice booming with enthusiasm. We will harness your magic, and you will learn to control it. Together, we will prepare you for what lies ahead. With a newfound determination, Thalion nodded. The path to redemption was not easy, but he was ready to take the first step. What should I do? Kaleth took a step back, spreading his massive wings. First, let's connect with the magic of the forest. Feel the energy around you. Let it guide your spirit. Thalion closed his eyes again, focusing on the sounds of the forest, the rustling leaves, the chirping birds, the gentle flow of a nearby stream. He imagined the magic swirling around him, filling him with strength. As he opened his eyes, he felt a warmth radiate from within. Now raise your hands, Kaleth instructed. Feel the energy flow through you. Let it rise and take form. Thalion lifted his hands, feeling a tingling sensation in his fingertips. With each passing moment, he felt more alive, more connected to the world around him. He could sense the magic, pulsing like a heartbeat. Good, Kaleth encouraged. Now, visualize what you wish to create. Picture it clearly in your mind. Thalion concentrated, imagining a shield of light surrounding him, protecting him from harm. As he focused, a soft glow began to form around his hands. It flickered and danced, growing stronger with his resolve. Yes, you are doing it, Kaleth roared, pride evident in his voice. But remember, it is not just about power. It is about purpose. Use this strength to protect, to heal, not to harm. Thalion nodded, a smile breaking across his face. He felt a wave of clarity wash over him, and in that moment, he understood. He could choose a path of redemption, one that would lead him to become the person he was meant to be. With each lesson, Thalion grew stronger, not just in magic, but in spirit. The choice was his, and he would embrace it fully. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest floor, Thalion found himself standing at the edge of the hidden glade. This was where he had first encountered Kaleth, the majestic dragon who had awakened something deep within him. Now, he stood ready for the lessons that would change his life forever. "Are you ready, Thalion?" Kaleth's voice rumbled like distant thunder, yet it held a warmth that made Thalion feel at ease. Thalion nodded, his heart racing with a mix of excitement and fear. "I think so. What will we do first?" Kaleth unfurled his massive wings, revealing iridescent scales that sparkled in the fading light. "Today, we will learn to harness your magic. You have power within you, but you must learn to control it." Thalion took a deep breath, feeling the weight of Kaleth's words. The fear that had followed him for so long began to fade, replaced by a flicker of hope. "How do I start?" "Close your eyes," Kaleth instructed gently. "Focus on your feelings. Let the magic flow through you like a river. Do not fight it. Embrace it." Thalion closed his eyes, his mind racing. He imagined the laughter of his classmates, the hurtful words that echoed in his ears. But then he thought of the stone, the moment he had touched it, and the bond he shared with Kaleth. Slowly, he began to feel warmth spreading through his body. "There, you feel it," Kaleth encouraged. "Now, channel that energy into your hands. Let it shine." With a concentrated effort, Thalion felt the warmth gather in his palms. When he opened his eyes, he was astonished to see a soft glow emanating from his hands. "I did it! I can feel it!" he exclaimed, a grin spreading across his face. "Good," Kaleth said, pride lacing his voice. "But remember, power is not just about strength. It is also about understanding and compassion. You must learn to use it wisely." As the days passed, Thalion and Kaleth trained in the quiet of the forest. They practiced spells that made flowers bloom and summoned gentle breezes. Each lesson was a step toward mastering the magic that flowed within him. One afternoon, as they rested beneath the shade of an ancient tree, Thalion spoke up. "Kaleth, sometimes I still feel scared. What if I use my powers the wrong way?" Kaleth looked at him with piercing golden eyes. "Fear is a part of growth, Thalion. It shows that you care. But remember, you have the choice to be the hero of your own story. You can choose compassion over anger." Thalion nodded, absorbing the wisdom in Kaleth's words. He thought of Elysia and the way she had tormented him. Instead of seeking revenge, he wanted to show her that he was more than the loser she had labeled him as. Over time, Thalion's confidence grew. He began to stand taller, his heart filled with the courage he had never known. One evening, after a particularly intense training session, he turned to Kaleth. "I feel different now. Like I can face anything." "You are becoming who you were meant to be," Kaleth replied, his voice deep and resonant. "But remember, true strength lies not only in power, but in kindness and understanding." With each passing day, Thalion realized that his journey was not just about mastering magic. It was about transforming himself from the inside out. He learned to confront his fears, not just for himself, but for those around him. As the moon rose high in the sky, Thalion stood at the edge of the glade, feeling the cool night air against his skin. He looked up at the stars, a sense of purpose igniting within him. "I will use my powers for good, Kaleth. I want to help others, to show them they are not alone." Kaleth spread his wings wide, casting a shadow over Thalion. "Then you are ready. Together, we will face the challenges ahead, and you will become a beacon of hope for those who need it." With a determined heart, Thalion stepped forward, ready to embrace the path of courage and compassion that lay ahead. He was no longer just a boy labeled a loser. He was Thalion, the dragon's apprentice, ready to change his fate. Thalion stood at the edge of the village square, his heart racing in his chest. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the cobblestones. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Today was the day he would confront Elysia and her group of tormentors. No longer would he hide in the shadows. He had Kaleth by his side, and he would face his fears. "Are you ready, Thalion?" Kaleth's voice echoed in his mind, a mixture of encouragement and strength. Thalion took a deep breath. "I think so. I just have to show them that I am not the loser they think I am." As he walked into the square, the laughter and chatter of villagers faded. Elysia stood at the center, surrounded by her friends, their faces twisted in mockery. When she saw Thalion, her smile turned into a sneer. "Look who decided to show up. The little loser thinks he can face us now," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. Thalion felt a surge of anger rise within him, but he pushed it down. Instead, he focused on the magic he had learned with Kaleth. "Elysia," he called out, his voice steady. "I am not here to fight. I want you to see who I really am." Elysia laughed, and her friends joined in, but Thalion stood firm. "You only see me as a target for your jokes, but I have changed. I have power now. I am not afraid of you anymore." With a flick of his wrist, Thalion summoned a small burst of energy. A swirl of light danced in the air, casting shimmering colors around him. The villagers paused, their laughter fading. They had never seen Thalion like this before. "Is that all you've got?" Elysia taunted, but there was a hint of uncertainty in her voice. Thalion felt Kaleth's presence beside him, a steady force of support. "Show them your true strength," Kaleth urged. "You do not need to fight with anger. Show them your heart." Taking another deep breath, Thalion concentrated. He reached out with his mind, connecting to Kaleth. Together, they created a stunning display of magic. A dragon-shaped silhouette formed from the light, soaring above the square. Gasps echoed around him as the villagers watched in awe. "Look!" Thalion exclaimed, pointing to the dragon. "This is a part of me now. I am not just a boy you can laugh at. I am more than that." Elysia's eyes widened, and for the first time she seemed unsure. "Thalion, this is just a trick, right?" she stammered, her bravado slipping away. "It's not a trick, Elysia," Thalion said, his voice calm yet firm. "It's the truth. I have found strength within myself. You can change too. We can all change." A silence fell over the square. The villagers looked at each other, their expressions shifting from skepticism to contemplation. Elysia's friends exchanged worried glances, unsure of how to respond to Thalion's newfound confidence. Elysia stepped forward, her expression softer now. I didn't mean to hurt you," she admitted, her voice wavering. "I just wanted to fit in. I thought making fun of you would make me look better." Thalion's heart softened at her words. "We all want to belong, Elysia, but hurting others isn't the way to do it. We can find strength together instead of tearing each other down." Elysia looked down, shame washing over her. "I'm sorry, Thalion," she said quietly. "I never thought about how my words affected you." The villagers watched closely, the tension in the air palpable. Thalion felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had not come to fight. He had come to stand up for himself, and in doing so, he had opened a door for Elysia. "Let's start fresh," Thalion said, his voice strong. "We can all be better. Together." Elysia nodded slowly, a flicker of understanding in her eyes. "I would like that. I truly would." As the villagers began to murmur amongst themselves, Thalion felt a sense of hope blooming in his chest. He had taken a stand, not with anger, but with courage and compassion. And in that moment, he knew he was no longer the loser. He was Thalion, a young man ready to forge a new path. The sun hung low in the sky, painting the village of Valderin in warm hues of orange and gold. In the aftermath of Thalion's confrontation with Alicia, a palpable change filled the air. Whispers of his bravery traveled through the streets, igniting a spark of hope among those who had once watched him suffer in silence. Thalion walked with Kaleth by his side, the mighty dragon scales shimmering in the fading light. They ventured towards the village square, where a gathering of villagers had formed. As they approached, Thalion could see familiar faces, some filled with admiration, others still wrestling with disbelief. "Did you see what he did?" a boy exclaimed, his eyes wide with wonder. "He stood up to Alicia. He's not just a loser anymore," another girl whispered, her voice catching with emotion. He's a hero." Thalion felt a mix of pride and vulnerability. He had always been seen as the outcast, the one who never fit in. Now, with Kaleth beside him, he felt a shift within himself. Perhaps, just perhaps, he could become the person he always wanted to be. As they reached the center of the square, Thalion turned to Kaleth. "Do you think they will ever truly accept me?" His voice trembled slightly, revealing the doubts that still lingered in his heart. Kaleth lowered his great head, meeting Thalion's gaze. "Acceptance comes from within, Thalion. You have already shown them your strength. Now, show them your heart." Taking a deep breath, Thalion stepped forward, drawing the attention of the villagers. "Everyone," he began, his voice steadying as he spoke. "I know that my past has not been easy. I have faced ridicule and pain. But today, I stand here not just as Thalion, but as someone who believes in the power of understanding and kindness." The villagers listened intently, some nodding in agreement. Alicia stood at the edge of the crowd, her expression a mix of shame and curiosity. Thalion noticed her, and for a moment, their eyes locked. "You don't have to be afraid of change," Thalion continued, his gaze shifting back to the crowd. "We can all choose to lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. I was once lost, but I found strength not only in magic, but in the support of friends and allies." A murmur swept through the crowd. Some began to whisper among themselves, contemplating his words. Thalion pressed on. "I want to be a friend to all of you. We can build a village where everyone feels valued, where no one feels alone." Alicia stepped forward, her voice breaking the silence. "Thalion." She hesitated, her eyes glistening. "I'm sorry for how I treated you. I was cruel, and I see that now." Her admission hung in the air, heavy yet liberating. Thalion's heart raced. He had never expected this. "Thank you, Alicia. It takes courage to admit when we are wrong," he replied, his voice warm and sincere. He felt a weight lift from his shoulders, not just for himself, but for her as well. Kaleth's deep voice resonated, filling the square. "Change is not easy, but it is possible. Let this be a moment that echoes through time, a reminder that kindness is stronger than cruelty." The villagers began to clap, a gentle sound that grew in intensity. It filled Thalion with warmth, a feeling of acceptance he had longed for. He smiled at Kaleth, who returned the gesture, their bond stronger than ever. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Thalion reflected on his journey. He had battled darkness, faced his fears, and now stood as a beacon of hope. He looked at the faces around him and felt a sense of belonging. "Together," he declared, "we can write a new story for Valderin, a story of friendship, courage, and love." With those words, the villagers cheered, embracing the promise of a brighter future. Thalion stood tall, side by side with Kaleth, knowing that even those labeled as losers could rise and become champions of their own destinies. The echoes of his journey resonated through the square, a testament to the power of resilience and compassion. Share this story if you believe that kindness and understanding can transform even the most challenging situations. Leave a comment about a time when you chose compassion over cruelty, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales like this one.